Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our CAS webinar, Battery Zapped. Take some time to recharge with Look for the Good Project's new programming. My name is Rosie O'Brien Wojtek, and I'm an Assistant Executive Director for the Connecticut Association of Schools. This webinar is being brought to you in part by our corporate partners, Jostens, Horace Mann, Liberty Bank, the Connecticut Army National Guard, and Pullman and Calmy. We thank them for their continuing support of CAS's professional development for all principals and educators in Connecticut. We're very excited to bring you this webinar and glad that you're joining us today. The session will be recorded and posted on the CAS website so you can view it later and share it with your colleagues as well as your faculty and staff. Please use the chat feature as a way to stay actively engaged in the learning during the session, and let us know if you have any technical issues as we will be monitoring the chat. In addition, we will also be monitoring the Q&A feature, and we'll try to answer as many of your questions as we can during this session. It's now my pleasure to introduce our presenters for this webinar. Anne Kubitsky is an author, artist, and founder of the Look for the Good Project, a national profit organization headquartered right here at the Connecticut Association of Schools. Since Look for the Good Project's founding in 2011, Anne has received many commendations and accolades for her work in the community, including Point of Light Award from United States President George H.W. Bush. She's currently collaborating with Jason Mraz Foundation on Jason Mraz's hit song, Look for the Good. Check it out on iTunes. If any of you are music teachers or have a music teacher who would like to convert Jason's song into choral sheet music, please contact Anne to collaborate. Joining Anne today are Amy Yost and Kerry Yakowicz. Amy Yost has been a principal at Sunnyside Elementary School in Shelton for the past 7 years. She has over 25 years in education as a 5th grade teacher and administrator. Amy is also a very active member of CAS. She's currently the treasurer for the CAS Board of Directors, chair for CAS Center for Leadership and Innovation, and member of the CAS Elementary Board of Control. Kerry Yakowicz has been a library media specialist at Sunnyside Elementary School in Shelton for the past 6 years. Before becoming a library media specialist, she was a classroom teacher for 20 years. Anne and Amy connected at a CAS Elementary Leadership Conference where Anne presented the Look for the Good campaign. Their professional connection grew from that point on. Sunnyside Elementary School has run the Look for the Good gratitude campaign for the past 5 years. After the first year, Kerry coordinated the campaign with the help of student leaders. At the beginning of the 3rd year of running the campaign, Anne visited Sunnyside Elementary School for the kickoff assembly. The Sunnyside School community is passionate about developing the whole child and supporting social and emotional wellness for students to achieve academically and in life. Last spring, Anne knew Look for the Good needed to evolve to meet the needs of students and families during this pandemic, and reached out to Amy and to Kerry to develop a curriculum to help students recharge their batteries. Amy and Kerry completed a grade 2 through 4 gratitude journal workbook and then developed a K-1 workbook. After those were completed, Kerry's daughter Riley lent a hand with the grade 5-6 workbook. As a result, Amy is an active member of the Look for the Good Advisory Board. Again, we're all excited to learn more about the Look for the Good project, as well as the new curriculum and the new program ideas. I can't think of a better time or way to be recharging not only our own batteries, but those of our faculty, staff, students, and families. It's now my pleasure to turn this webinar over to Anne. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me just share my screen. Oh, I think somebody needs to give me access. Oh, got it. Okay. So, okay, can everybody see my screen? Yep, okay, great. So, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today with you. First off, this is not a sales pitch or anything like that. Think of this as basically an hour to rest and recuperate and hopefully recharge your battery. I'll be taking some time to ask you some questions, and I hope you take some time to reflect. And then Amy and Kerry are going to take a little time to talk about how the Look for the Good project has been implemented in their school and how it might help you in yours. So my first question is, how are you feeling? You can have more than one feeling, but what we'd like to do is make this a little bit interactive. So please use the chat box to maybe share some of the feelings you're having. And you can have more than one, and they don't have to be on this list. This was just some of the emotions I was thinking might be running through your heart and mind. Amy, do you want to share what's...
We have overwhelmed. Another overwhelmed. Someone's very proud of myself and Kari for being here. Thank you, Dr. Smith. We appreciate that support. Stretched thin.
Yeah.
Grateful.
So grateful. Any other feelings?
General sense of unease, drained but hopeful.
These are all good. So it's okay, basically. All emotions are good. This whole presentation is really about sort of expanding beyond just the happy emotions and really embracing and befriending the difficult ones. So it is totally okay if you're feeling crabby right now. You may be feeling even numb or apathetic at this point in the pandemic. And that's completely normal, because when you're in a situation that's not charging your battery, uncomfortable emotions show up. It's just how it works. And I'd say a global pandemic is definitely not charging anyone's batteries right now. So this summer, I came up with something called, I've just termed Maslow's battery. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And as I was thinking about, what my reaction was to the pandemic, it occurred to me that, this was a really great way to conceptualize of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and where I was in, meeting my needs, because it suddenly we were worried about toilet paper and, having enough food in the fridge and making sure we were safe. These were things that I wasn't thinking about in January, but suddenly I was thinking a lot about in March and April and May and, till now. So what I'd like to do is actually kind of what the battery does. It's sort of like an internal battery that you have that sort of assesses where you are in meeting your needs. Put together a little questionnaire that's going to be available for you after this webinar that is it's super helpful to print out, put on your fridge so you can do a little check-in every day. But I thought right now we'd actually check in. So you don't have to share these with the group. These are just questions for you to kind of think through where you are on your own battery. And we're going to start with the bottom. Just like in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the bottom two are the most important. The first one is physiological wellness and comfort. So right now, are you feeling comfortable? Like, are you too cold? Are you too hot? Are you hungry, thirsty, tired, sick? How are you feeling right now? Do you have to go to the bathroom? If you're not comfortable, you've got to start here and first just get yourself a little more comfortable. So even if you have to step away right now from the computer to get yourself more comfortable, go right ahead, because this hour is really about you and hopefully recharging. So the second level up on the battery is safety. And I think a huge piece for me is that I was learning about this summer is the consistency of safety, because it's not just feeling safe in the moment, but over time, are you consistently feeling safe in your home? Do you feel emotionally safe with the people around you? Do you feel safe in your neighborhood? If you go out and about, are you afraid that, people, are they going to respect your boundaries or overstep? How safe do you feel? So, as we're going up this battery, just think about, is it generally yes or is it generally no? Then third up in yellow, that's all about community and a sense of belonging. So are you getting enough hugs? Do you feel like you belong in your family and your school and your neighborhood? Do you have consistent reciprocal relationships that make you feel loved and accepted just as you are, where there aren't any conditions, you don't have to play a role, you can just be yourself, which includes, you know, the really difficult days or the bad moods, and you're still accepted and loved just as you are? Do you feel like you belong? So that's a yes or a no. And then the fourth one up is about self-esteem and sort of your view of yourself and whether or not you can really solve a problem. If you have a problem, do you feel confident that you are capable of, you know, contributing to your family and to your community and to your school and your work? Do you feel like you matter and what you're doing matters? So that's a yes or a no. And then the last one, which is the blue at the top, is really about a sense of purpose and hope for your future. So generally, do you feel like you have hope for your future? Do you have motivation to get up in the morning? Do you feel hopeful for your kids and your family and your school community, for your larger community, the country, the world? Like, how hopeful do you actually feel every day? And that's a yes or a no. So if anyone feels brave enough to share where they are on their battery, do you feel like your battery is totally zapped, where you pretty much said no for everything? Or do you feel like it's 50%? Or how are you feeling about the status of your battery right now? Amy, are there any answers?
Not just yet. As soon as they pop up, I will definitely share. We have Sharon saying she's at 50%.
Thank you, Sharon. I don't know about you, but I was feeling really zapped last summer. I'm feeling better now. I feel I'm probably at 50%. Kari and Amy, where are you right now?
I think I'd have to say about 50% also. I feel like those basic needs are met, but that optimism and all of that is a little challenging right now.
Yeah, Kari, how are you feeling?
I would say it kind of changes so often. It's like, you know, I'm starting to feel hopeful and then something just kind of zaps me and all of a sudden I'm back at, I need to get to where I feel safe again. And it could be that I'm watching the news. It just could be I'm talking to someone and I start to feel unsafe. So I kind of go back to that. And then I kind of build up again where I start to get to a point where I feel more comfortable. But it's just, I feel like I keep going back and forth.
Yeah, I would say that's a really great explanation of toxic stress, because it's just this ongoing stress that keeps dysregulating your system. You know, you're first in rest and digest, and then something happens and you go into fight or flight, and then you go back. And so what ends up happening is you get dysregulated, which is how toxic stress turns into trauma locked in your body. So that's the big issue right now, I think, with the pandemic, is the toxic stress of it, because it's just this ongoing wave after wave of stressors, really. These are all indications of where the stressors are coming from, because there's a difference between a stressor and the stress itself, which is your body's reaction to it. So when you're feeling stress, which is the big emotion, let me go back to that. When you're feeling stress, which is the big emotion, that's an indicator of a stressor that's causing it. So this battery actually helps you figure out where the stressor is coming from, which can be helpful. And so you might not be able to fix the stressor, because like we can't make the pandemic go away right now, but you can fix some of the stress, which is what the rest of this program is about.
And then I want to share that George also shared that he was feeling at 60%. So we appreciate everybody jumping in and you know, giving their input. So thank you, George.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. It really helps to share too, because it allows you to feel however you're feeling, and you're being a kind presence to yourself just by acknowledging how you're feeling at the moment. So that's the purpose of this. So one of the people that I've encountered, and I've done a lot of research since the beginning of this pandemic on emotional regulation and emotions and where they come from and stress. And one of the people I came across is Carla McLaren, who's a social science researcher on emotions specifically. And all of this content really comes from her work. And she talks about how there aren't really positive emotions and negative emotions as much as, it's not like good and bad. It's more like there's comfortable emotions and then there's uncomfortable emotions. And there's no shame about any of it. And then when she, she has some wonderful work, and she talks about how uncomfortable emotions can be really categorized into just 3 general families. So there's the mad family, the sad family, and the afraid family. All of them are uncomfortable and all of them are useful, just as the comfortable emotions are useful, which is the glad family. And so the glad family shows up whenever you're feeling safe and you have what you need in that moment. So your battery's charged. And when you're feeling mad, sad, or afraid, that's a pretty good indicator that your battery's zapped in some way. You're not getting what you need, or you don't feel safe. So it's simple, and it's, a simplification of, a huge range of emotions that we could be having. But I think it really helps, especially in stressful times like this, because it's like, oh, okay, it's okay that I'm feeling mad right now. This is a normal reaction to an abnormal situation, or, it sort of normalizes things. Amy and Kari, did you want to add anything on that?
I'm just going to jump in that within the chat, a little side conversation was just kind of going back and forth a little bit about the politics. And again, not being independent of whichever kind of side you're on. It was just the uncertainty and the niceness quoted from George is just the fact that we have the pandemic, but then, showing that different factors can trigger our emotions also. So just depending on what's going on, we have the pandemic, but then the election was going on. And so when you counter all of this together, that is a very, as you were going before saying, the toxic stress that we're all under.
Yeah, it's incredible because you don't really know who's going to get triggered on what issue. And I think the big, when you're having big emotions yourself, the huge thing is the shame and the anger at yourself for having the emotion that comes up. So it's a secondary emotion to the emotion that you're having. And the reason I really liked Carla McLaren's work so much is she talks about emotions as little friends that come to visit you, like visitors, to a house. So you're not the mad person. You're the person who has your little mad friend come to visit to tell you something important and protect you in some way. And then once you do the thing that the anger wants you to do, that little friend goes away. And so it's sort of a nice little way of, separating the emotion from your identity so that you can see the emotion more clearly and there's no shame wrapped around it. For example, she talks about anger being this wise and protective friend that basically alerts you to when a boundary is being crossed. It helps you when anger shows up. Maybe you haven't discovered your boundary yet, but it's helping you discover it because you're really angry. So somebody must have, probably crossed a boundary. So what is that boundary? It also gives you the energy to speak up for what you need. So, and she also talks about how there are arcs to emotion where it's sort of like alchemizing energy, where you start in one place and it helps you get to another place. So normally with anger, you're fighting against something when you first get angry. And then that can, when you add some creativity to it, it can actually turn into fighting for something bigger. So maybe you're fighting against racism and systemic racism, or maybe a racist comment, but maybe that turns into fighting for, a society where there is no systemic racism. So it shifts your perspective. If you allow yourself to feel the anger, to allow it to be there, and then you find a way to harness it into something constructive. And most people, they've been taught to just not have any of these uncomfortable emotions. So they just clamp them all down as soon as they start to appear, instead of taking the time to really see where that's leading them, because it can be a really constructive use of your time. Fear, just like anger, that's in the sympathetic nervous system. It's got a lot of energy to it. It makes you want to do something. And fear helps you pay attention. It helps you get organized. It helps you identify danger and then do something about it. So you might first be running away from danger, but then it makes you constructive and resourceful and creative. And so fear can be, especially if you harness it, it can be a very useful tool. For example, I used fear. I was feeling actually very afraid this spring. And so that made me very resourceful in learning all about all of these emotions. And within, I think over the summer, we did 4 books in 5 weeks. You know, it was like a tremendous amount of energy moving through, which actually created a lot of creativity. So fear can be wonderful for creativity. And then sadness. Sadness is a great emotion for letting go, slowing down, and accepting a big change. And so in the situation that we're in with the pandemic, there's so many things that we used to be able to do that we can't do right now, which creates sadness and grief. And a lot of people are really allergic to grief and sadness. They don't want to feel it. And so they avoid it. And it's much easier if you allow yourself to grieve, even if it's a small grief over, you know, I really wish I could go for a walk right now with my friend, or I really wish I could hug this person, or whatever it is. Take the time to feel the grief around that, because it opens you up to really being present in the moment. Are there any questions about that? There are more emotions actually on the handout, and Carla McLaren does a fantastic job on a lot more emotions, but I thought I'd just share those 3. Okay, I'm going to keep going. So the other piece of this is that if you don't allow yourself to feel the uncomfortable emotions and you just try to tamp them down, you run into something called toxic positivity, which is basically denying your reality, which is you're feeling these uncomfortable emotions. So you're denying that, you're minimizing it, and that actually invalidates the authentic human emotional experience that you're having. So when you do that to yourself, you can't really help but do that to other people. And there's a huge shame component about toxic positivity, where it's like you're only supposed to have happy thoughts, or you're only supposed to be positive or nice or polite. And sometimes, like when you have to state a boundary, you have to be very firm. So the really difficult part about toxic positivity is that it keeps you from you know, really allowing yourself to be an honest, safe person for a child. So the first thing that you can do to really help yourself embrace all of the emotions is to allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling right now. There's no shame in feeling anger or fear or sadness or apathy, or even just being super tired all the time. This is a completely normal reaction to an abnormal situation. So, so compassion for yourself is really where you need to start. And if you're having trouble with that, then think about like how would you treat a little child that you feel really protective about? Like how would you talk to them if they were feeling sad or scared? You know, you'd be very gentle with them. So be gentle with yourself. Because when you befriend your uncomfortable emotions, you actually become a safe person for yourself and other people. And so in the download, there's also a little questionnaire on what your relationship is with anger, with fear, with sadness. Because, you know, as soon as you really befriend all of the emotions and you feel safe and comfortable with all of them, you become a really safe person for other people. And with children, this is really essential right now because we're all going through toxic stress. You know, the research says that the single most helpful thing to buffer a child from toxic stress is basically a stable, committed relationship with a supportive adult. Like, that's it. They just need that, because a child needs an adult to help them regulate their emotions. So if you don't know how to regulate yours, how can you do that for a child? So this is why it's really important that we all learn more about all these difficult emotions, because the more, you know, at ease we are with them and we understand the fluidity, like how to be fluid with them and harness the energy of them, we can teach that to our children. And there's no shame in any emotion that they show us. So, and because when you are a safe person, it kind of feels like sunshine. We're now calling these safe relationships sunshine relationships, or, you know, the sunshine peoples. Like, so, you know, we're helping with all the new programming, really helping children identify who their sunshine person is, and then to connect more deeply with that person, because that's the person that's going to help buffer them against toxic stress. And by the way, toxic stress is the stuff that leads to adverse childhood experiences and a lifelong, you know, difficulties in so many things. So, you know, if you, there's a litany of information on adverse childhood experiences, which I'm sure you know even more than I do about it. So it's a very, very important thing to be doing right now, is to be a sunshine person for a child. So safe sunshine people, like, what are they? Like, what does it really mean to be a sunshine person? And this is based on the work of Lindsay Gibson, who is a psychologist. And she writes that safe people are not afraid of uncomfortable emotions in themselves and others. They are consistent and reliable. That's important. The consistency piece is really important. They're respectful and reciprocate your love and affection on a consistent basis. So the Gottman Institute talks about an 80% rule, where reciprocity really needs to be at 80% in order to maintain a happy, healthy relationship. So something as simple as you pointing out the window saying, hey, look at the bird. If the other person doesn't look at the bird, they're not reciprocating that in interchange. So think about the relationships you have, and, you know, are they at that 80%? Are you doing that with other people? How can you become, you know, a sunshine person for someone else and be better at these things? Then sunshine people also respond to you with kindness and know how to apologize and make amends when they make a mistake. That's really important. It's being able to make amends. And then their presence just makes you feel calm and recharged enough that they actually do buffer you from toxic stress. So the question really is, who is your sunshine person? So we're going to get to that in just a minute. So start thinking about that. But before, I forgot about this slide. So before we get to that, if you want any more tools on all of this information I just presented, just go to lookforthegoodproject.org. Right at the top of the homepage, there's a link to a free program called Look for the Good School. And it basically teaches parents to be better sunshine people to their children. But feel free to sign up yourself. I mean, it's useful basically for anybody. And it's actually targeting adults who interact with children. So any educator, I think, could benefit from look for the good school. It comes also with a workbook called Permission to Panic, and it's completely free. The downloads and the online piece of it. And then if you, the workbook, if you want the physical, the whole physical thing sent to you, that does cost a little bit, but it's not very much. Amy and Kari, did you want to add anything about that?
No, I think you've got it right on track here. And I think the point is, I think it's almost a process for all of us to go through. So I think as an adult, the workbook is definitely geared towards the adult, to almost that concept, if you're on the plane, you need your mask on first to be able to assist somebody else. And that really is, when we talk about a sunshine person, is you've done some self-reflection. What's your best self? What does that look like? And how do you want to be able to support others in your life?
Right, and we cover overwhelm in that too, since, you know, some of you are feeling overwhelmed. And overwhelm is just sort of an accumulation of a lot of different emotions all at once. It's like a traffic jam. And it's really, whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, it means you need to slow down, take a moment to recharge. The download that we're sending you also has a whole list of different ways you can recharge right in the moment, immediately, like what do you need? But just as a basic, you know, go-to is just think about, you know, comfort. If you're feeling overwhelmed, how can you make yourself comfortable right now? So it might just be putting on a sweater if you're cold, or getting a glass of water, or taking a breath. But the comfort piece is huge in just giving yourself a little more space around the emotion.
And Rosie asked about, you know, kind of pose it out there. Could this be something to use with your PTOs or PTAs? And absolutely, this is a great opportunity to kind of have a virtual connection with your families, teach them a little bit about this as a background of, you know, the emotional piece, and then how it may fit into look for the good down the road.
Yeah, there's animated videos on each emotion, as well as an animated video about the battery in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And then there's a really helpful video that actually helps a child and a parent together slow down and just have a moment to breathe. So that's probably, it's called Emotion Detective, and it's sort of taking a moment to slow down enough where, you know, what emotion friends have come to visit. So please check it out. It's totally free. And I think you'll like it. We've already got about 600 families in the program, and all of them have been very supportive of it. They like it.
You know, Anne, before you go on, I just wanted to say about the toxic positivity. It's there. It could be such a big part of education. As educators, we kind of have to be positive in front of the kids and feel like we have to put on that, you know, everything's going to be okay. And if we don't kind of deal with it ourselves and embrace these emotions and look at ourselves and how we're really feeling, it's kind of difficult to do that for others. So I think that I actually, going through, when I looked over these over the summer, it kind of just helped me to realize that I can't be helpful to my kids or the kids at school if I don't look at these things in myself and say, all right, I'm feeling this way. I have to figure out why I'm feeling this way. And I just think that these materials, these free materials that you could download, help you do that.
Yeah, there's another resource that I just didn't have time to put in this program right now, but it's called Burnout. It's a book. You should look it up. It's Burnout, and it's by two twin sisters, Emily and Amelia Nagoski, which is Nagoski. And I can include that, you know, at the end, the link to that. It is a fantastic book. They have a podcast, and they talk about the stress response cycle and how basically, when I read it, I was like, oh, this makes sense, because every emotion basically helps you complete the stress response cycle, which is basically when a stressor occurs. Let's say you're being, chased by a tiger, right, in the jungle. You're immediately going into fight, flight, or freeze. That's the stress response that your body just biologically wants to go into. And when your body is physiologically going into fight, flight, or freeze, there's a lot of emotions that come up with it. And so when an emotion is there, if you take it to its completion, And exercise is a fantastic way to do that. But that's what this whole recharging thing is about, is taking the emotion to its completion. You're actually getting your body back into rest and digest. And so they were talking about how when people feel burned out, they have their body went into the stress response, but it never got to complete the cycle. So that unprocessed stress response is just stuck in their body, and then it accumulates with every stressor that comes along. So that's why you probably feel overwhelmed and burned out, if that makes sense. I'm trying to summarize like a lot of information in a very short period of time, so I hope that makes sense. But my question for you now is, who is your sunshine person? Does everybody have somebody that they can think of that has been just a resource for them, that makes them feel safe, that they're grateful for, that's helped them through this pandemic? If you can't think of someone, can you please write in the chat box right now, and we can kind of help you think that through?
And thank you, Karen. Karen posted the Amazon link for the book Burnout in the
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's great. I don't see the chat. I can't see it right now.
I got it. There's nothing right now, so I'll keep you posted as we go through the chat.
Okay, great. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like you to take a moment to write a letter to that sunshine person. And you don't have to share it with us. I just want you to write it for yourself to share with that person. And I have this, we're going to watch a video, which is, if you go to lookforthegoodproject.org/webinar, you can access this at any time. So this video, basically, it's about 5 minutes long. And while we're watching it, I want you to write this letter. And so actually, before we get to that, let me give you your question.
And Dina has shared that her sunshine person is her best friend. So thank you, Dina, for sharing that. We appreciate that.
Great. So the questions I want you to put in the letter, I want you to answer these questions, or fill these sentences out. So, dear so-and-so, you matter to me because, thank you for saying these things that make me feel safe and loved. So think about the things that they say to you that make you feel safe and loved, and then start writing those things down. And then, I'm especially grateful for you when you do this. And that's where, really write whatever comes to you to share, right from your heart. Think about the sacrifices that they've made in order to make your life better. And just, the little things they might do to improve your life or make you feel special. And then, maybe you can add, I know that this is difficult to do sometimes, but thank you so much for making me feel listened to, appreciated, and supported. You've made a big difference in my life, and thank you. So whatever you want to share, that's just an idea, but I want you to write a thank you letter to that person while we watch this video about gratitude, which might inspire you. And if you don't finish it, that's okay. You've started it, and that's all I want you to do right now. So here, without further ado,
you think this is just another day in your life? It's not just another day. It's the one day that is given to you today. It's a gift. It's the only gift that you have right now. And the only appropriate response is gratefulness. If you learn to respond as if it were the first day in your life and the very last day. And you will have spent this day very well. Begin by opening your eyes and be surprised that you have eyes you can open. That incredible array of colors that is constantly offered to us for pure enjoyment. Look at the sky. We so rarely look at the sky. We so rarely note how different it is from moment to moment with clouds coming and going. Open your eyes, look at that. Look at the faces of people whom you meet. Each one has an incredible story behind their face. Not only their own story, but the story of their ancestors. All that life from generations and from so many places all over the world flows together and meets you here like a life-giving water if you only open your heart and drink. Open your heart to the incredible gifts that civilization gives to us. You flip a switch and there is electric light. Turn a faucet and there's warm water and cold water and drinkable water. A gift that millions and millions in the world will never experience. And so I wish you that you will open your heart to all these blessings and let them flow through you. That everyone whom you will meet on this day will be blessed by you. Just by your presence. Let the gratefulness overflow into blessing all around you. Then it will really be a good day.
I love that video. Do you feel a little better now? I always feel recharged. I'm sorry, I can't find the present. There we go. So hopefully you have your letter that is now partially or fully complete. And I would like you to try to read it to your sunshine person by the end of the week. So, sorry. You have time to finish it maybe tonight. But while it's fresh in your heart, do share it with that person. If you can't meet with them in person, call them up on the phone, do a FaceTime or a Zoom so that you can see each other face to face and see how it makes you feel. Because there are a lot of different people are, gratitude at this point, a lot of people are tired of it. But this is a gratitude intervention that is evidence-based. It does work. It will make you feel better by reading it to the person, and it will definitely make the person who is receiving the letter feel better too. So if you want a quick recharge on your battery, this is a great way to do it. And let's see, I am out of my presentation. Yeah, there we go. So, and if you'd like to bring this to your school, the next slide, which I can't seem to get to, there we go. If you'd like to bring this to your school, where every child gets to write a letter like that, this is where Kari and Amy have a lot to say. They've been doing this for quite some time at their school. And the program, obviously, there's a lot more to it. We've had, since Sunnyside participated, we've had about 150,000 kids in 35 states write letters like this to their sunshine people. And it's a great way for a child to, number one, identify their sunshine person, and then number two, connect more deeply with that sunshine person, which is really, really important right now during, you know, this toxic stress that's happening. But because gratitude is a great way to, you have to be really careful with gratitude. If you don't have you don't have the uncomfortable emotions covered as well, it could turn into a campaign of toxic positivity, which we don't want to have happen. So if you combine this free program with parents with a gratitude program at school, what you're really doing is you're giving the kids an opportunity to oscillate between the safe space of their happy, safe emotions, which is, you know, happiness, kindness, creativity, joy, gratitude. Those are easy normally for kids to access. And then it gives them confidence to then take risks and learn more about their uncomfortable emotions through the parent program. So, and when you're dealing with trauma, that's a great way to do it, is to kind of oscillate back and forth. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Kerry, Yakowicz, and Amy Yost to present the rest of the presentation.
So some parts of the program are similar to they have been in the past, but due to logistics with safety concerns and students' needs, it was just, when we were talking in the spring, Anne knew right away that the program needed to look different this year. So not really knowing over the summer what the school year was going to be like, we knew there needed to be different ways that the campaign could be run. So we figured there needed to be some kind of an in-person or hybrid way of presenting the program. So at the beginning of the year, I received a box of materials that had everything I needed in there in case we were in person or hybrid. Plus I had the link to the online platform, which had everything else we needed to launch the program if we were virtual. So we did know we couldn't have an assembly because of social distancing. So we knew teachers would need links to all of the videos to kick off the program, to share with their classes in the morning, and just describing the way the program was going to look this year. So this program is really easy to incorporate in whatever SEL initiatives your school is taking on. Right now, we also have a globalization theme, and last November was Native American Heritage Month. So what we did was we found a book that is called We Are Grateful by Tracy Sorrell, and it's an award-winning book that is about the Cherokee and how they are grateful for every day and every season. So what we like to do is take whatever initiatives we're working on and kind of incorporate them into Look for the Good. So it's not just like something that we do for 2 weeks, but it's kind of incorporated and kids can see the bigger picture for it. And do you want me to wink at you when? I'll give you a good wink.
There you go.
And you could go to the next one.
Okay.
So when I started to prepare the kickoff, some of the parts of the campaign I knew would be the same because when I started, we were in person. We were actually hybrid when I first started planning, and then we became, all the kids came back. So we were full in school I was so excited because I was going to get to do the gratitude wall in our library with all the gratitude notes. I figured I would let them sit in a bucket for a couple days, and then I would touch them and put them all up on the wall. So I was really glad that we were going to be able to incorporate these things in person. Well, 2 weeks before the campaign, we had to switch to virtual, and I was a little nervous at first because my thoughts went to, oh my gosh, it's ready for in person. But it was a lot easier than I thought to switch to virtual programming because the links still worked that we were able to share with teachers. And now instead of sharing them live, they would just put them in their Google Classrooms. Or I went into a classroom this morning and helped a teacher present it on their Google Meet. So we did our kickoff this morning because, and in the last day of November, we read the book, We Are Grateful, that was about the Cherokee. And they were presenting the videos that come with the campaign on the online platform. So they were able to share them that way. When we first started talking about what the program might look like, we had conversations about the amount of screen time the kids were having, and I was also sharing how much I had to print out as a parent because I had a 5th grader and an 8th grader who were constantly printing out pages. So we thought it would be really great to have a physical copy of the book made in case schools wanted to go that route. So first thing we did was we created the 2-4 book because when Amy and I started, we felt like that was our comfort level. And the first week of lessons, because each day is a different lesson, and it kind of explains what Maslow's battery is to the students so that they could really understand why they might be feeling certain ways at certain times. It's because their battery is zapped. And the book really does a great way of explaining that at the beginning. Anne wrote a really great beginning to the book. So kids, it puts it in their language and they can understand what's happening. And then we took that 2-4 book that we wrote and we made a K1 book. And it kind of goes off the same philosophy of making sure they understand what their battery is and how they can charge it. And then the whole second week is about finding that sunshine person and what exactly a sunshine person is. So it's really good, and it helps the kids kind of identify those things in their lives so that they can start to fulfill those needs that they have right now. We were going to write the 5-6 book, but I felt like I had a feeling I wasn't cool enough to write a 5-6 book. So, because sometimes my daughter would look at me like, no, Mom, that's just not cool. So what I did was I looked over and I saw her sitting on the couch. I said, Riley, come over here. And what she did was she kind of went through the pages of the book, and I made sure it wasn't like, it was mature enough so that a 5th and 6th grader would also embrace the concepts of the book, because this book basically could be for anyone. I mean, an adult can pick it up and start to realize, okay, I need to have this, this, and this in order to feel comfortable again. But 5-6 kids, you have to present things in a certain way so that they will kind of engage in the materials. And Riley actually told me this isn't the kind of book, and she wrote a little forward at the beginning. She goes, this isn't the kind of book that you would just put down. She goes, it's the kind of book that you would use as a tool. So it's one you would keep on your shelf and not just a book you would put aside and never read again. But as problems come up and as things change, this is the kind of book you would go to as a guide like that. The book also comes with teacher prompts, which can be printed out. So the lessons are right there for the teachers. I delivered them the other day. I had the prompts. I printed them out for them and a copy of the book so they could see what it was like for themselves. And it was just so nice they said, to get it all there, and they didn't have to recreate anything or create anything. It was just there and they could post it. And it was almost like one thing that they didn't have to think about, because I know teachers, I was looking at the comments, a lot of people are feeling overwhelmed right now, but this is just one thing that it was going to be something that was already made for them. When you go on the online platform, there are ways that you can create a distance gratitude wall and ideas so that you could still run the different aspects of the program, but just they would look a little differently this year. I just wanted to share a little story that last year we we're going to kick off the campaign. And I always practice with the student leaders the week before. And what happened was we all practiced, and everyone likes to think of their gratitude the week before so that when it comes to the time to present, they're all ready to go with their gratitude. But it happened that one of the kids who was going to present had a trauma over the weekend. And on Monday, they came to me and I said, are you guys ready? Do you have any questions? Do you feel comfortable? And they were all like, yeah, it's going to be fine. And then right before we went into the assembly, she turned to me and she said, I need to change my gratitude. I said, that's fine. I said, what did you need to change it to? And she said, I need to be grateful and thankful to the people who came to clean my house this weekend. And it just made me stop, because at that moment I realized we had done the program for 5 years. And at the beginning I would see, I'm grateful for pizza. I'm grateful for my dog. But, I think that over the years, and this is a girl who had it for many, many years, she just started to see that gratitude can be much deeper than just pizza, even though we can be grateful for pizza, but it could be something that goes beyond. And she really did look for something to be grateful for that weekend. So that's when I kind of understood the impact this program could have.
And I think here that flows perfectly into my slides that are coming up right now. I'm cognizant of time, so it'll only be a couple minutes. I know people have meetings and things to get to, but it really wraps around the concept of Look for the Good program. We've been doing it for 5 years now. I'm very passionate about it. It's really not just a 2-week campaign. It really becomes the fabric of your school climate and culture for children to, again, this child has come up through K to 4 from us. We're a K-4 school. And to have that realization, that cathartic moment, that's what gratitude is about. That's what that's really the essence of the program itself. Yes, we've had office referrals have been reduced because, again, I think children are more apt to pause, reflect, try to regulate their emotions. We've done a lot of work with SEL over the past couple of years, and I know many districts right now, it is such a there's such a focus on that with the pandemic and how people are feeling. So again, this really embeds that. And you can go to the next slide, the last slide there. And again, it just, we've done a lot of work with our families too, with the Look for the Good campaign. So again, this year we are looking to, I'm glad that somebody put in the chat about sharing with your PTO. We are looking come January to kind of do a virtual meeting with families to kind of just discuss this a little bit more and to just see how we can help families and give them those free resources also. That's, I think, one of the reasons when we started this work in the spring and the summer, wanting this just to be in people's hands, to be able to help families cope with, again, some of these more uncomfortable emotions, to get to that comfortable emotion. And again, nothing is bad or good. It's just how can we help support one another? And I definitely see our students are definitely more empathetic and compassionate. You see that around our building all the time. And we've seen it flow through in our community where kids are either creating, we've had families that make backpacks for foster care programs. They're dropping off cards or treats to our firemen, policemen. So again, seeing where they become, when we look at Maslow's hierarchy, they're part of that community and how their impact, although they are small, they have a huge impact on our community. So, granted it is our climate and culture in our school, but it actually flows into their life. And I think that's a key piece of it. And one thing, from the administrator's lens, anything that we do in our school, we're always doing it. We're always intertwining any concepts. And again, we have our Look for the Good. We're doing some work with globalization. All of that ties in together, so kids aren't seeing these concepts as isolated, but it really is by putting everything together, how they impact their community. So,
Thank you.
Put it back to you, Anne.
Thank you. And also, if anyone is struggling financially, we have decided to give away $1,000 to an educator. So administrators, that counts for you too. Superintendents, pretty much anyone in a K through 6 education setting, counselors, gym teachers, art teachers, any teacher, any administrator, you are eligible and you can nominate yourself between now and December 15th or nominate someone else. And we're raising money to give away more money. So if you don't get it now, we might, have another run at it in the spring. And you can use the money any way you want. It's not for education purposes. It's just to recharge your battery. So that's at the bottom of the link, which is lookforthegoodproject.org/webinar. It's the bottom of the page. There's a little link to the application. So I know we went over, but thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer those now or later by email.
Anne and Amy and Kari, I just want to say thank you. I do have one question, and that is just because I have been at Sunnyside School, and so I know that they have been involved with social emotional learning for a long time, with ruler, with restorative practices. And one of the questions, and Amy, you kind of started in on this, but one of the questions principals always have is this going to be one more thing that we have to do, or how does this fit and integrate into what we're already doing? You want to just talk briefly about that?
It's definitely not something to do. It's again, it becomes the fabric of your school. So although the campaign runs for 2 weeks, and granted with the kit, everything is scripted for you. Kari's done a great job with that. Was one of her tasks this summer, working with Anne, and kind of giving teachers a script right then and there. So it's not a lot on your end to do. But you just notice it becomes part of how you're responding to kids, how kids are responding. So if you saw back in Kari's slide, she had, you saw this glass, this big window that had all stickies on it, and that's our gratitude wall. That's our physical one. Now we're going to be doing a virtual one through Padlet. But with that being said, the kids, that became that was their safe haven. Once they started seeing those gratitude, they knew where they put theirs up on the wall. They knew who owned it. And then it just became all through the year. Our spots stayed on the floor within our physical building of, when they stand on it, what are you grateful for? They would, we had a couple students every day from the start of the campaign to the last day of school that would stand on that. And that was just, they would stand and say what they were grateful for all throughout the day. And it was, I think our teachers were invested in it. They can see the positive aspect of it. So again, anything that we did, we kind of just woven that, kind of that philosophy throughout any of our initiatives.
Thank you. And I just want to say what an excellent program that this is. And thank you so much, Anne, for all the work that you've done in order to make this free for people, or almost practically free, and then also helping people find money in order to bring it to their schools. So thank you for that.
It's my pleasure. Also, just so you know, because the family program is free, the uncomfortable emotions are free. The gratitude program is not free. It costs $500 for all the materials that get shipped and all of, the whole thing. But if you can't afford that, please don't let that be an issue for you. You can apply for funding, and we have funding available to basically sponsor the entire program for you, or whatever you can afford. So don't let that be a factor at all. So it's virtually free for you, all of it, and then the uncomfortable emotions are completely free. So, and we're full of uncomfortable emotions right now, right?
Aren't we all? Yes, aren't we all? So again, I just want to thank all three of you for sharing Look for the Good project with us, and for all the work that you're doing to make the curriculum work purposeful and meaningful. I can't think of a time in the lives of students and educators when a program like this has been so needed by all of us. And the best part is, like we said, a lot of it is free, or there is a way, if you want it, there's a way that we can help you get it. So that's great. And thanks so much for sharing your work with us today. I'd encourage our viewers to contact any one of you if they'd like to learn more about this program, or if they have questions. And I know it isn't safe right now to visit Sunnyside Elementary School because of the pandemic, but I have to say, because I've been there firsthand, I have to tell you that it is a wonderful school. And when it's safe to do so, I know that you'll find it an amazing place for faculty and staff to teach and learn with and from each other. So I encourage you, if you're interested, to contact Amy and Kari to learn more about how they're using Look for the Good project at Sunnyside Elementary School. Thanks again, Anne, Amy, and Kari, for taking time to share your work with us today. And thanks to everyone who joined us for this webinar. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.